Has it worked? If that was the intention, has it worked? The fact that public perception now, people are questioning the integrity of the Senate, the integrity of the Senate's Public Accounts and Investments Committee. You've come up with a report that you expect Kenyans to, you expect the House to adopt, and you expect it to actually be of service to Kenyans. But with these allegations, and yes, they still remain allegations until proven, don't you think that that has affected even the kind of work that you did in that committee?
Well, Fred, let me start from where you started, but I'll start by updating you with a few things that you may not have known earlier. But what I must say good morning to our viewers. Good morning. And you know, I would say you started the morning on a hilarious note. Because,
oh, you call it hilarious?
Yes, absolutely. Because you see, I mean, when one claims that there are accusations of that nature, and you know, accusations must bear some foundation, you know, whereby you will say that this is the evidence, and so this is the accusations. And then you also look at the accuser, and then you'll be saying, you know, what is the propensity of such an accuser to be held to truth? And one of the things I would like first to update you about, Fred, is that when this committee started the investigation, and the media was very keen on reporting, the first report that came out was that the media had been bribed with 320 million. Do you remember that? That was the allegation that was made by Mburu, that he gave the media in Riverside 320 million, so that they, in part of the sharing of the 300 of the 1.5 billion, and that was probably, in my view, maybe intended to silence the media or intimidate the media. Now, every time, let me say this, Fred, and to our viewers this morning, if you come up with the kind of report that we came up with, you'll be accused of all manner of things. And because you said, you know, that you have three panelists who are accused, and you have a third one there.
I said two.
Okay, fine.
I said two.
And you have a third one there.
Accused.
Who has been a member of the Public Accounts Committee. He'll tell you, for example, like when he was dealing with some of those major scandals that you hear Boni Halwale prides himself in as the chairperson of you know, the Public Accounts Committee. You know, for example, like during the you know, Kimunya's report, sometimes during the maize scandal and all those kind of things. You don't walk that path, and you are safe, so to say, in quotes. That report, as it came out, was completely unexpected. But I would also want to remind you one thing, that there is a similar report in the form of an affidavit that was filed by an officer from the anti-corruption. I think it was EACC. I read it in the media the other day. And you see, the conclusions that were laid by the committee is precisely what this officer says. You know, Fred, it is impossible at the face of such evidence to come up with a different report. And though the report runs over so many people, so many names, so many entities, you know, the only one thing that we would have done as a committee is to come up with the report as it is, because that evidence exists.
Senator,
and this is, just a minute. Let me finish, because you give me the opportunity.
Yes, and I also need to give Bonaboni Halwale an opportunity to delve into this.
So listen to me, Fred, and this I would want to say with a straight face to Kenyans listening this morning. In this time and era of, for example, what is called Sonko leaks, the most important thing one would have had bearing such evidence is to release it and say this is evidence.
Okay, fine.
And then once that evidence is out there, then you
and we will continue discussing this. And I'll give you another opportunity, Senator. But Bonaboni Halwale, are we saying that the Senate is completely immune from this influence, monetary influence? We've seen it happening in the National Assembly, and a sugar report that Kenyans were waiting for just died like that. Yes, and the amounts that they talked about in the Senate were much less. Previously, we've heard about chairmen of committees, maybe in the National Assembly or in the Senate, and Curiously, it was about the Public Accounts Committee a few years back that the chairman of that committee was accused of receiving money to influence a probe, and that actually cost that individual his position back then in that committee. These are things that keep happening in Parliament. So when someone comes up and says at this time that yes, some members of this committee attempted or even demanded or asked for some money from me to actually influence the outcome of this probe, should Kenyans really just dismiss such a claim?
No, because where there is smoke, there's definitely fire somewhere. I fear for Senator Moses Kajwang'on. It all boils to you as the chairman. Don't make the mistake of swearing here or anywhere else that that allegation is false. It could very well be that you have nothing to do with it as the chairman and of course as the entire committee, but 1 or 2 or 3 members of your committee have actually been approached. You know, Kenyans will remember a man called Kamlesh Patni. Patni approached the Public Accounts Committee, and when that allegation was made, people thought it was a lie, but it was very difficult thereafter for the agenda of the Public Accounts Committee to be driven forward on the Golden Bag issue. Coming after that was the Anglo leasing scandal. The chairman then was His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta. That kind of allegation never came. And we were able to see progress. People were charged. You saw Mwiraria lose his job, Murungaru and others, and even Kraitu, I think, they lost their jobs because of the work of that committee. I will not bore the country with what we did as when I was the chairman. So the fact that when you're the chairman, these allegations are being done, please don't start saying my committee is okay. It could be 1 or 2 members of your committee. Yes. I think there is a problem.
Yes. But Chairman, you chair this committee. Can you say for certain that you can actually speak and vouch for all your committee members, that you're sure that none of them may be accused or could actually be culpable in this?
Fred, you are putting me in a position that is fairly ill-informed, because what are the accusations against the Senate or my committee? What I hear is that there's a version that 4 members of the Senate or 4 members of my committee, there are those who say the chair and others. There is no consistent charge. So I cannot swear on television that charges that I am not even aware of, that the DCI has not brought to my attention, because it is at that point that we can be able to respond. But I want the nation to look at the report that we have tabled before the House. And I want to challenge even you journalists to attempt and do a comparison between the report of the Senate and the report of the National Assembly. Fairly interesting that the National Assembly established that the land was private, and the Senate established that the land was public. You know, starting from there, it will tell you the kind of thinking that went into that. Then compare what the Senate submitted, and as Senator Wamatangi said, what EACC has submitted to court in the form of a sworn affidavit. And finally, the nation should ask itself, this particular case, the DPP is on record as having returned the file back to EACC not once but twice. What is it that the Senate is able to establish, the EACC is able to establish? The CS lands came before us and said that that land was public. The Nairobi governor came before us. The Intergovernmental Technical Relations Committee came before us. What is it about this case that stops it from progressing? And I believe that the 1.5 billion Kenya shillings, you guys did a feature on it, how it moved from the state coffers into a private account, and in 3 or 4 days it was gone. I believe that that money must have found its way to frustrate this, because I cannot understand why we as senators, without deep investigative capacity, can come to a conclusion which then the other bodies with proper powers cannot package and forward to the DPP.
Senator, we're not even questioning the outcome or the contents of the report here. It is this allegation of which you have come out in public and denied the allegations. So that means you are open to discussing the fact that you or your members of your committee have been accused, or there are allegations leveled against your committee. Because we've seen previously, and this has to do a lot with the integrity of Parliament. We've just come from a week where members of the National Assembly were accused of, in fact, the accusations just came from members of the National Assembly against their colleagues, that there was a lot of bribery that led to the shooting down of the Sugar report.
Fred, with a lot of respect, and I said this last week, if persons who are indicted are the ones who are going to define the narrative, we are going to lose the war against corruption. And respectfully, I am not going to delve into the narrative of the persons whom we have found or who are suspected to have swindled public funds. I would rather focus on the content of the report and let that be the starting point. And if anything, then we as a committee would not have been as bold as we have been.
Don't you think that these allegations, whether true or false, set you back as a committee in as far as pushing through this report? Because I am sure and I'm certain you would want to convince the House that this report is accurate. Don't you think that these allegations set you back?
Fred, the main intention of laying such allegations is to water down the report. Is so that now that the report was tabled in the House before the House went on recess, and it became public. It was all in the social media. You could read it yourself. It was important, it was prudent for those accused, for those mentioned, to water down the report, because that is the only report upon which a basis can be laid by national government with its organs, either to recover those the money or to recover assets which have been bought using those proceeds. So it was very important for anyone with interest to fight that report and water it down by making it look bad. But I want to say this because Bonnie Halwale spoke last time. He said that some members of your committee could have been approached. I want Bonnie Halwale, as a former member of Parliament and as a senator also, to look you in the eye and also tell you, listen to what actually the chair said the last time. It is not in doubt that members of the committee were approached numerously, not once. There was a fellow who came and camped inside Parliament throughout and was sitting at the restaurant of Parliament every time you would be walking out, permanently, having been briefed that his work is to come and follow members of the committee and try to follow them. It is not in doubt. We have not, no one has ever denied at all, and I'm not denying. I want to face the camera and say, actually every time when we went to write the report at Windsor, fellows were coming all over. When you're writing the report, oh, we want to, please, what? The committee stood firm, and that is our crime. When we were going to sit to form the committee and decide on how we'll approach this, even at Safari Park, they came. Yeah, it was continuous. It was not in. So what you're saying is very simple. You know, probably the crime that members of the committee may have committed is to refuse to budge. Ask yourself, it's a common sense question. If you have 1.5 billion and you're being told then pay 100 million will clear you, which figure is more, 100 million or 1.5 billion?
I think I have no reason to doubt you. I have no reason to doubt you. But Chair, maybe what is difficult for Kenyans to understand is what you did or what you did not do. And I'll give you an example of my own experience as chairman. Once upon a time, when we were investigating the loss of 1.8 billion through the scandal of printing new currency by De La Rue, we were at a Continental Hotel in Mombasa doing the report. And their person came to see us. So how I responded is that very evening, when the guy made the first attempt, and then convened the sitting of the Senate at 10 p.m., and told members that we will be addressing a press conference in the morning, first thing. So when we addressed the press conference, I suspended the sittings of the committee because it meant we were going to proceed in an environment when already somebody had come in and attempted to give us money, or might have succeeded in giving some people money. And when we talked about it in Nairobi, it was believable. So in Windsor, or in Parliament, when you say that these people are coming and you are quiet, it could very well mean that you are doing business.
Because
you only came to talk about it because it went past.
I want the chairman
let me just respond to Bonnie. Let me respond to Bonnie, because unless you are not following the proceedings of the committee, you know that these proceedings actually were being aired live. The first time, actually, when these fellows came, they came with a lawyer who dramatized in Parliament until the session had to close, and actually was summoned by the Powers and Privileges Committee because they wanted to forestall the operations of the committee.
You know, Ndimuri, I don't blame my colleagues. You know why I don't believe you, Omwami?
Just a minute. I mean, Bonnie, after that, they moved to court, and the committee was served with a court order not to sit. They moved to court and barred the media from airing those. They wrote to the speaker, and the speaker was told to summon the committee members by name.
You know,
so that
in Parliament, inside Parliament,
I need the chairman to come in on this.
Just 1 minute. Yes. In Parliament, there is police, there is security all over. So if the chairman of the committee or a seasoned member like Wamatangi, if you saw a guy who has come with money in Parliament, is seated there, is coming to bribe you, he was having intention to commit a criminal offense. Why did you report him? He could have been arrested.
Okay.
You conducted yourselves very badly. You forgot.
The fellow did not come with money. What he was coming was unsolicited,
and we cannot prove anything.
Can we speak?
Senator, even as you answer, let me just ask you this question, because now these are very serious allegations. These are very serious allegations. And the kind of thing we've seen even in the National Assembly is that even a serious report that is so dear to Kenyans can actually be defeated because of money changing hands inside Parliament. So it is possible. These are very serious allegations. Are you, as a chairman, now that you say you're not prepared to discuss or to delve into matters or allegations made by someone who's not believable, are you, as a chairman, prepared to sit back and watch as this report is affected by such allegations which are potentially damaging, not just to your own integrity, but also to the contents of the report, because the report might end up not seeing the light of day because of these allegations?
Fred, when we undertook this task, we knew it was not going to be easy. In fact, any task you take, even the decision you make to run for a position as a politician, it is not easy. And even the decision you take to run for chair of the Public Accounts Committee, Bonnie Khalwale is the founding chair of the Public Accounts Committee. You know, there are always allegations swirling around you. When governors come before your committee, because they have differences with the MCAs down there, if you take a different position from what the MCAs believe, they will say that you have been bribed. And those are things that have dogged parliamentary committees, whether true or not. The only bit where Bonnie Khalwale has disappointed me is, I think the issue of preemptively raising the flag on some of these issues. Now, if it's going to comfort Bonnie, it has been captured in our report. And we have documented the litany of problems. First of all, the advocate for this particular gentleman, Francis Mburu, a gentleman called Nyamai, we have written a complaint letter to the Law Society of Kenya for his disorderly conduct that was captured on TV. And in fact, we had to call in the Sergeant at Arms to eject him. We have documented the litany of frustrations, including the court orders that were issued against nation newspapers, the court orders that were issued against my committee. And Bonnie, you fought a valiant battle on the issue of summonses and on the issue of updating the Powers and Privileges Act. You will not believe it, that a court in the Republic of Kenya granted Mr. Mburu orders barring my committee from inviting them in the present or inviting them or summoning them in the future. Completely unheard of. You know, Governor Oparanya had to go to court
we went through
over
the same
issue of
problem.
summons. And so you have a situation where a court is setting a precedent and saying, notwithstanding what the Powers and Privileges Act says, you cannot invite, you cannot summon this person, not now, not in the future. That's the kind of scenario
the question now, Board Chairman, is what's your next course of action? Because are you just going to sit back and watch as these allegations just fly around and then we see if the report will survive or not?
Fred, I will use the words of one of my colleagues in the committee. We are not going to roll in the mud. Our report is before the House. Our report is public. We wait for the House to come back from recess. We shall submit it to the House. If members believe that we did a good job, it shall be adopted. If members have a different view, that's okay. It is not personal, but this is about safeguarding public interest and public resources, and that is a duty that we have sworn.
And I will let that matter rest at that point. We need to take a break. When we come back, we take a look at other headlines. Of course, we cannot just
as you let it rest. Actually, you know, even elevating that debate, for example, as expansively and as extensively as we have this morning, and even way out in the waves, is part of the victory that the indicted are seeking. When this goes around and it is spun around, then the report has no weight. And what we need to do, you know, and I would want to back what actually the chair is saying, is let the report be tabled to be adopted by Parliament, and then its veracity can be tested by actual now investigations going into the recommendations to see is that true. And then now after that report has been investigated by the authorities according to the recommendations, then you will know who. But you see, our stand remains firm, and I would want to reiterate that as a member of that committee, that we cannot sit and watch when public funds are being plundered, especially in schools where the young go to school. In a background like Babadogo, where it is one of the most poorest backgrounds of this country, and people have donated 200 shillings to buy that kind of land. We can't sit and watch that kind of thing. Anything else, but not that. Yeah.
Yes, the senators have spoken, and of course this discussion will definitely continue. That report is ready and is to be presented before the Senate for debate, and of course we'll be here to report on that as well. Let's now take a break. When we come back, we take a look at other headlines, including this one that's causing quite some ruckus on the front page of the Daily Nation. Ruto Waiguru fight Ipsos graft ranking. Plus, the Standard this morning says why you should not be texting or chatting with Governor Mike Sonko of Nairobi. That after the break.